Elden Ring has 6 different endings, each one changing the lands between in its own way depending on which quest you finish and the choices you make along the way. Today we're going to go over the 6 endings, what they mean and exactly what you need to do to get them. Before we start, I just want to give a special thank you to Slayer Habit, Naken ZA, Margaret Moonlight, Firkin Bull, and Danner154. Support like this is what pushes me to make content. Thank you very much, guys. To start things off, we have the Age of Fracture. The Age of Fracture is the default ending of Elden Ring. Basically, the vanilla ice cream of conclusions. To get it, you don't need to do a single quest, solve any obscure puzzles, or befriend any NPCs. Just beat the final boss, put Queen Marika back together, and you crown yourself as Elden Lord. Now here's the thing. A lot of players see this as one of the weaker endings, and honestly, fair. You just spend a dozen hours watching the lands between crumble under corruption. And instead of changing anything, you pick up the pieces, brush off the dust, and leave the world exactly how it was. The only real difference is that you are now in charge, and the list of demigods alive is a lot shorter. Anyways, once you defeated Radagon and the Elden Beast, and if you've done no other side quests, you'll see by the options for Fractured America there's only one: mend the Elden Ring. Do that and voila, you've just achieved the Age of Fracture. The Age of Duskborn is all about bringing true death back to the lands between. To get it, you'll need to complete Fear's questline. And yes, that is the Fear, the deathbed companion who offers you suspiciously intimate hugs at the Round Table Hold. Following her story will eventually take you to the Deeproot Depths, where you'll fight Lich Dragon Fortizax, an ancient rotting dragon with some of the coolest lightning visuals in the game. Beat him, finish Fear's questline, and you'll earn the Mending Rune of the Death Prince, your ticket to this ending. Okay, now just a quick lore pit stop. Before all of this, the lands between were under the Golden Order, where destined death, the natural cycle of dying, was literally removed from the world. People didn't just pass on, their bodies rotted, their souls stuck around, and undeath became the norm. That's why you have walking corpses, deathbirds, and skeletons everywhere. Nothing was ever truly gone. With the Mending Rune of the Death Prince, you can change that. After beating Godfrey and Radagon and the Elden Beast, you'll interact with Marika's shattered form. Instead of mending the Elden Ring in its current deathless state, you use the Death Prince rune, weaving death back into the fabric of the world. From that point on, things die properly. Souls pass on and rot fades, and the cycle of life and death return. It's not the flashiest endings, but it's one of the few endings where you actually solve one of the Land Between's biggest problems. And that's why I'm a big fan of this one. You're actually doing something positive, even though it'll take a lot of positives to get the Lands Between on the right track. The Age of Order is basically the perfect Golden Order ending, an attempt to fix the flaws in the world's current system without tearing the whole thing down. If the Age of Fracture is vanilla ice cream, then this is vanilla with gold sprinkles. By using the Mending Rune of Perfect Order, you lock the lands between into a harmonious, unshakable law where chaos is removed entirely. This ending is tied to Goldmask, a silent, statuesque philosopher who just stares at the Erdtree all day, and his overly chatty fan, Brother Corrin. You first meet Corrin at the Round Table Hold. Eventually he leaves to search for Goldmask, and with a little guidance from you, he finds him standing on a broken bridge in Altus Plateau. From there, you'll be playing as an errand runner for the Golden Order's biggest brainiacs, fetching the Golden Order Principia in Leyndal, learning the Law of Regression incantation, and using it to uncover a big truth about Radagon that shakes their faith to the core. Keep following their journey through the mountaintops of the Giants and into the Ashen Capital, where you'll eventually find Goldmask's lifeless body. Loot him, respectfully of course, to get the Mending Rune of Perfect Order. Beat the game's final bosses, approach Marika's fractured form, and instead of using the standard repair, use Goldmask's rune. The result? The Golden Order perfected. Everything is orderly, stable, and eternal. But whether that's a blessing or a prison depends on how you feel about absolute, unchanging law. Just a quick pit stop. If you guys are enjoying this so far, please drop a like and let me know in the comments which ending you went for in your first run. And if you'd like to see more Elden Ring content like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Anyways, back to the story. If the Age of Order is about perfecting the world, the Blessing of Despair is about infecting it. This is the Dung Eater's ending, and if you've met him, you already know this is going to be kinda gross. The Dung Eater is a twisted serial killer obsessed with defiling corpses so that their souls can never return to the Erdtree. In a world where death is already messed up thanks to the Golden Order, he takes it one step further, by making sure that even in death, there's no peace. To get this ending, you'll need to fully complete the Dung Eater's questline. You'll first find him in the Round Table Hold. Follow his directions, free him, and deliver 5 seedbed curses to him. You can find these on corpses that have already been defiled. Each one brings him closer to his dream of spreading his blessing across the lands between. Once you've handed over all 5, he rewards you with the Mending Rune of the Foul Curse. Then it's the usual draw. Beat Godfrey, Radagon, and the Elden Beast, interact with Marika's shattered form, and choose to use the Foul Curse rune instead of mending the ring normally. This will result in the lands between being united under the Elden Lord, but every living thing is tainted with the Dung Eater's curse. Death is no release, rebirth is impossible, and everyone else is condemned to endless rotting existence. It's one of the few endings where you actively make the world worse, and if you pick this one on purpose, I think you need to sit down and think about your life choices. The Age of Stars is probably the most popular good ending in Elden Ring, though good is up for debate. This is Ranni the Witch's ending, and it's all about cutting ties with the Greater Wall and its control over the lands between. Another quick lore pit stop, the Greater Wall is basically a cosmic god pulling the strings of the Golden Order. It's the reason the world works the way it does, and it's the reason a lot of it's so broken. Ranni's plan to sever that influence entirely and replacing it with her own vision is an age guided by the moon, far away from the meddling of the outer gods. To get this ending, you need to complete Ranni's really long questline, easily one of the longest in the game. You first meet her disguised as Renna at Carrier Manor, where she gives you a spirit calling bell. Later, in a true form, you meet her at Ranni's Rise. She invites you to join her service alongside Silivus, War Counselor E.G. and Blythe the Half-Wolf. Her story will take you through Nokron, the Eternal City, the Lake of Rot, and into Ansel River Main. This is where you uncover her connection to the Knight of the Black Knives. Eventually, you'll aid her in killing her own two fingers, completely severing her from the Greater Wall. Near the end of her quest, you'll place the Ring of Oath, also called the Ring of Oathbound, on her finger, symbolically marrying her and becoming a consort. From that point on, your fates are tied. Once you've beaten Godfrey, Radagon and the Elden Beast, you'll have a new choice when approaching Marika's fractured form. Summon Ranni. She appears, takes your hand, and together you leave the lands between entirely, embarking on a 1,000-year voyage into the cold distant stars. It's the only ending where you literally leave the world behind, and the only one where you end up married. Whether that's the ultimate liberation or just running away from the mess, well, that's up to you. And last but certainly not least is the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending. This ending is tied to the outer god known as the Frenzied Flame, whose only goal is to erase existence itself. You start this path by meeting the Three Fingers, and to do that you have to strip down to your underwear and step into their creepy, flame-filled embrace deep beneath Leyndell. Once they've marked you, you're locked into this ending unless you go through an extremely specific process to reverse it. Quick lore pit stop, the Frenzied Flame doesn't care about order, chaos, life or death. It just wants everything. People, gods, the Erdtree, the Greater Wall, gone. To it, annihilation is mercy. Anyway, once branded, you carry its power all the way to the end of the game. After beating Godfrey, Radagon and the Elden Beast, there's no mending runes, no choosing between noble or vile futures. You just walk up to Marika's body and the Frenzied Flame takes over, and you unleash a fire so powerful it turns the lands between into ash. If I had to label this ending, I'd put it in the chaotic neutral ending. So that's all the different endings in Elden Ring. Whether you just picked one or you end up doing all of them through a new game plus, each one is a beautifully written story and they're always a joy to play through. FromSoft clearly put a lot of energy and love into this, and we as the players get to enjoy something truly special. Every moment of playtime you can feel it. That's all from me guys, I hope you enjoyed. Peace.